Hi, I'm Margaret Durillo, and this is Act 3. Have you been looking at the economy lately? This is February 2009, and it's kind of not doing very well. The president's stimulus package was just signed the other day, and we have some hope that things might improve. But for a lot of people, some things are really not too good, particularly on the job front. But we're going to talk about that a little bit today and have a great guest. Her name is Cathie Gandel. She's a writer, and she's also a mom, and she's a wife, but she has been a businesswoman for a long time, and she's written a fabulous article for Reader's Digest magazine that's just out now. And we're going to talk a little bit about this issue, how to get a job in a terrible market, right?
That's right, yes.
Hi, Cathie. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Margaret. Thanks for having me.
Great. So tell me, what was the impetus behind this article?
Well, the Reader's Digest came to me and asked me if I would be interested in working on this article. I am a freelance journalist, and it was for exactly the reasons that you said. These are tough times. Unemployment is up to 12%, 13%, not as bad as the Depression, but people are hurting, people are looking for jobs. And the question they wanted to ask and hopefully answer is, can you get a job in these tough times? And the answer is absolutely. You can get a job even in this economy.
So there's obviously a pattern or a way to go about doing it. I guess the first thing would be is don't panic.
That's right. That's right. It will take longer. You have to think of yourself in a way as a product, and you are selling yourself to the human resource director or the person who's interviewing you for the job. And there's a lot of product on the market now. So you have to differentiate yourself in all the ways that we've learned before. There's not really any news about how to look at your strengths, focus on your strengths, think about what you really want to do. For some people, this may be a good chance to change careers. If they were laid off from a job they hated, well, this is their opportunity to look for something that they might really love to do down the road.
So in other words, you're looking at it and you're suggesting that people see this more as an opportunity rather than the worst thing that ever happened to you. But you know, when you lose a job, say, or you can't get a job, you take it so personally and you feel like it's you who did it. And is that the case? Absolutely not.
I interviewed 25 quote-unquote experts for this article, and almost all of them said that this is a fact of life. This is a fact of business life today in 2009. It is not personal. And even though some companies find ways, and some companies do find ways, there's a piece in here on euphemisms, you know, downsizing, right-sizing, that kind of thing. It's not personal. It's simply the way life is today.
So you have to sort of steel yourself, I guess. You have to become a little bit tougher. Is that it? Do you have to, like, harden yourself a little bit to take a loss?
Yes, you do. And you can also do things to try to make sure you're not one of the people laid off. I mean, this is not the economy to come in late and leave early. This is a time to be flexible, to ask your boss perhaps, what else can I do? Perhaps take a course if you're in a profession where you could learn another aspect to the job. This is a time to make yourself as invaluable as possible to your employer. And one of the experts said to me, try to get yourself in a position where you are the only one who can do what you're doing. It's not as if you had a cast of thousands behind you who could do what you're doing just as well.
So you have to be sort of indispensable.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
I guess it's not the time to ask for a raise.
No, it is definitely not the time to ask for a raise. Show up, stay connected. Someone said something interesting to me that I hadn't thought of. Don't only get along with your boss, get along with your boss's boss, because often the trickle-down effect of layoffs comes from the top.
I see. Now, how did you get into I mean, this must have taken some expertise to do this. And I know you've been writing a long time, but how did you focus on this particular thing? You were asked, but you had to really get yourself into this in order to have this job.
Yes, I actually focus largely on personal finance and money stories, and that's how I got into the Reader's Digest. I did a piece for them on how to find cold cash in tough times, and then they came to me with this idea. But you know, I started out at Time Life a long time ago, and I learned there how to research almost anything. And I know now how to find the experts, how to do the research, and it's been a great job all these years because it's like going to school. I learn something every day. And when you're a freelance writer, everything is grist for the mill, in essence. I can meet somebody at a dinner party. It's a wonderful career.
But not everybody can be a freelance writer.
That's right.
And in order, you had to sort of be in training. You said you started at Time Life. But you also had other careers, you know, right? You did other things, and this is kind of a thing you were able to come to at this point in your life, which is wonderful. And but what did you do when you were a younger woman?
Well, it's interesting. When we started talking about jobs, I was thinking, I started at Time Inc. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I met my husband and married him in New York. We have 2 sons who are in their 30s now. And we lived in New York City and had our house in the Hamptons, like a lot of people did. And then my husband, who was in the advertising business, was given the opportunity to move to Melbourne, Australia. And we talked about it, and I thought, well, at the very worst, it'll be a wonderful adventure. And it was more than that. And then he was transferred to Tokyo, Japan. So I was, there I was, out of my milieu. And in a way, what I learned on those foreign assignments is something that I think people could maybe apply when they're looking for a job. I learned to forget about what you used to do and focus on what you can do, what the opportunities are now. Just for example, on the Upper West Side, we took our children to the playground. Everybody met there. There weren't playgrounds in Tokyo. I had to find another way to meet young mothers. And instead of spending all my time worrying about the fact that there were no playgrounds, I looked for the solution. And I think that's what people need to do now. Instead of, we're allowed some time to grieve our lost job, but instead of spending a lot of time there, I think it's important to move into the solution.
That's very good advice. You know, be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Right.
And then you went from Tokyo. You had your little, how old were your sons when you were in Tokyo?
My kids were in 1st and 5th grade when we arrived. We were there for 5 years.
Wow, what an experience for them.
It was during the 80s when Japan was riding high and buying up golf clubs and golf courses and buildings in New York. It was a very different economic environment.
Yes, it must be. And your children, do they speak Japanese?
They got really good when we were there, and I studied Japanese and became good enough to, I called it survival Japanese. I could get a meal, I could travel, I could shop, but I could not talk politics.
Well, that's probably healthy. You might not want to talk politics all the time. And so you you came back to the States after that assignment?
We were, my husband was transferred back to Los Angeles, so we lived there for about 10, 12 years. And we always had our house. We kept our house in Bridgehampton all those years. And when he retired, we decided we wanted to live in Bridgehampton more than Los Angeles, although our sons are still out there, but we loved our house here and we loved the area.
That's very interesting because you hear of a lot of people going to that coast and never ever coming back. Right. But I guess you really are a New Yorker. But did you meet Earl in Brooklyn as well?
In New York, yes.
In New York.
Yes.
Well, so you've had quite an experience, and you sound really very comfortable in doing what you do. When did you start writing? Were you an editor at Time Life, or were you writing for them?
I was actually a researcher at Time Life, and when I moved to Japan, I started to do writing in English language writing. Obviously, I didn't write in Japanese, but I found a part-time job with a Japanese public relations company, and it was terrific. I would rewrite the materials for their